long days or don't day that the Hong Kong in long days on the Hong Kong dark part on it. Oh, long time a dark Rami Hong Kong. Oh, Hong Rami the Hakomati. Oh, that's a Hong Kong dinner did Hong. The little program of Sharon of the Hong Bank Person. The young and the Hong the Continent there, the little support there, a shop left, the little tower left, the ring the logic. They were not Dava drop, they were not Dava chickets, to which Dava chicketry, long tower left, the new was on it, the tapper Roboshal, the Tayameva, Transangsha, Meva Charm, the Union Chakra, Lamsang, they chat about it.
So there was one request to for Rinpoche to explain the Ahung Vajra recitation, especially in relation to developing the experience of warmth, heat in the body. And so Rinpoche is saying that if you practice this today, and you won't feel warm, so you may feel like today I'm not warm, no warmth arises, even though I meditate on it. So it is something that has to happen over a long course of time. And actually the first thing to recognize is your own breath, that you're actually always breathing. It goes basically through 3 steps. You're inhaling, there's a slight retaining, and then there is an exhalation. So you're becoming aware of your breath, and then you align this breath with the Ahung syllables that you only mentally recite. So you do not visualize or say them. You just mentally recite them. And for that, first you need to have mindfulness. So first, yes, you're mindful, and then on the inhalation, you're thinking Om. And actually, this Om Ahung Vajra recitation is really for the purpose of having the winds abide at the navel, because the navel is the most precious of our chakras. It is that our body was actually first, it began to grow from the navel, being connected to our mother. And therefore at the navel there is the subtle menstrual drop, the red drop of our mother. It naturally resides at the navel, and that drop is responsible for the heat in your body in general. So when the winds, the energies stay there at the navel, then this warmth is felt. And actually the warmth is naturally there because the red drop is there. So the winds support the fire. That is like the basis. So you're inhaling and you're thinking Om. And then the slight retaining, you think Ah. And you visualize, it's called a short Ah or Atong, which is basically like a fire flame. It's in the navel area, the navel chakra. And so you inhale and you think that with Ah then, that the winds then dissolve into that fire flame. And that fire flame is like a butter lamp. In order for fire to really blaze, fire needs wind. So that's Om, and then with Hung, you are exhaling the air. And so the Om Ahung also generally represent the enlightened body, speech, and mind of all the Buddhas of the 3 times. And that is also why the deities are all marked with Om Ahung, to symbolize that. So in all your activities, you can practice the Om Ahung. So you're inhaling Om, retaining slightly Ah, have the winds merge into the fire flame, exhaling Hung. The most important focus here is the fire flame, the Ah, at the navel. And as the wind touches the fire begins to blaze stronger, so you feel the heat more and more. And when you're exhaling with Hong, think that the vital essence, like the prana of the wind, has dissolved into the fire, and you're only exhaling the stale air. And then, since the prana has merged with the fire, the wind energy's nature is Hong, the fire energy nature is A. So since the wind has merged with the fire at the navel, you have A and Hong at the navel. It is just like the fire is the navel, is the A, and the Hong is the wick. You have like in the center of a fire, you have a wick. So in this way, A and Hong are together at the navel. And so first you habituate to that, Oma Hong, and then the butter of the butter lamp is like the refined essence of the mind that abides there. And so if you practice the Oma Hong, then in all your day-to-day activities you become undistracted. And actually it is that the Oma Hong Vajra recitation also really is the essence of all the other mantra recitations. And also that is what we also meant here before with always abiding within the nature. So you become undistracted if you practice the Oma Hong as you breathe naturally. And eventually it will never leave your mind. So then the Oma Hong Vajra recitation actually becomes your mindfulness. So it goes on the entire day, and then also when you go to sleep at night, until you fall asleep, you can practice the same Om Ah Hong, aligning it to your breath. And every time you wake up, immediately you can again remember the Om Ah Hong. So when you practice that, at the very longest, it will take about a year to develop a sensation. If you're really very diligent, it could also happen in a month. So the main point is that the winds abide at the navel, and that feeling that then arises after this time is almost like the wind energies have become this, have solidified into this vibrating feeling in your navel area, so that there is this feeling that there is something there, like an energy there at the navel. So that's the first feeling that arises, and then warmth arises. And so once you have habituated to Om Ah Hong, then later you don't have to actually practice the Ah and the Om with the inhalation and exhalation and so on. You just focus on the Hong really. The Hong is the main focus at the navel. So first you have the Ah and the Hong at the navel. So no more Om. So you have the Ah, the fire, and the Hong, the wind, inside the fire at the navel. And then you habituate to that as you breathe naturally. And then later, there's only Hong. It is sufficient if you only remember the Hong at your navel at all times. And then the Hong becomes this like pulsating sensation. It is almost like your heartbeat that you feel beating through your channels. And then you realize that actually my channels are constantly beating with Hong. My whole body is actually pulsating, vibrating with Hong. Hong vibrates throughout my entire body. I just didn't recognize that before. So then all there is this Hong, Hong, Hong pulsating at the navel. And when that becomes stable, then whenever thoughts and emotions arise, you can destroy them with the Hong, just like casting a bomb on them. So if you practice this again and again, you keep practicing the Hong, then as a result of that, then from this like energy feeling, this vibrating feeling at the navel, then develops strength and also heat. So again, at the longest, it will take you about a year or 6 months, or if you're very diligent, 1 month. there's this feeling that arises here at the navel. And then when that arises, then also you will not feel so cold anymore. But this is something that needs to be practiced for a long time. It won't happen very quickly. So is a very important point for our practice, and it's actually like the essence of all practice. For example, now you're practicing yoga. Actually, that also has to do with the wind energies abiding at the navel. When the winds abide at the navel, then that leads to a natural physical strength, and also kind of a patient endurance of anything. For example, also it relates to sports or athletics. When one loses, for example, if one falls down and loses, then how one really falls down in sports, for example, is when fear arises. Then the winds escape from the navel, and when the winds escape from the navel, then you fall or you break something. So there's a relation to that and fear. So when fear arises, then you lose the winds from your navel. But when the winds are stable at your navel, then there also won't be any fear, actually. Also, when you have a lot of pain, when you have a sickness and a lot of pain, when the winds abide at the navel and someone touches that area, you would not scream out. Normally, when you're hurting somewhere and someone touches you there, you would cry out right away. So that's all a quality of the winds abiding at the navel. And that's also something that science and sports and so on really utilizes, the power that comes from that. For example, there is this kind of contest in China where the athlete or the practitioner is lying under like 1,000 iron plates or something like that, and they can just stay there. They have all the power, and that comes from the quality of the winds abiding at the navel. And so then eventually your mind becomes the Hong. Everything becomes Hong. And actually, when that is always there in your mind, then in the future when you die, it is said that there is no separate power necessary actually. The Hong itself can become power. Also Milarepa had mentioned that elsewhere, that when the wind mind abides, gathers at the Hong, at the navel Hong, then through the naturally arisen sound, the natural sound of the Hong, the drop is naturally transferred. So that's basically, it becomes a power practice. So all thoughts also that arise, all thoughts dissolve into the Hong or into the fire flame and are burned away and destroyed. So there is a way of practicing where one only practices the Hong. So the winds abide at the navel, the mind is at the navel, and you habituate to that. And when you really master that, then you will be able to patiently forbear, endure any kind of difficulty, like pain and so forth. There's a lot of stories about that. So actually the Hong itself is a very powerful practice in itself. For example, in the Dzogchen tradition, there is a practice where one only practices the Hong. One only recites the Hong, and one visualizes that self and other, everything becomes Hong, pervaded by Hong. And so personally, from my own personal experience, it is because of this practice, having the winds at the navel, because of the Om Hong Vajra recitation, that I actually never really feel so cold. Actually, I have never done the traditional 6 Dhammas of Naropa retreat, Tumo and so on. Really, I've only practiced the Hong at the navel. That is really it. But only through doing that, only through this practice, I've experienced that I'm gaining physical strength, and I'm able to forbear, endure any kind of difficulty, any kind of pain or heat and cold and so forth.
Tata neru topo parlo shirabza lonme sonde tindo soli de shisi tapa de ta bodhichitta yore dire tata langsang soke shirabjiba de kangme dire ta daji 동당 본이제 나이메와 통거래 데르들이 시합 정보도 양당양도 로라더니 그래서 동이 되냐 도당지 통거래 시합 정보도 양당양도 로라 다리게도 사제가서 거야 배는 시합 정보 서로를 통속 매트 적들 파닥시에 따르더니 제 말을 봐라서 적들이나 샤 매치를 따르서 자, 지들이 좋게 세 프라바바랑 루세미가 딱 쨌다는 뜻자면 다 통로버리. 당니 독건지 좀 해도 난 semnatila rinang tonki 맥베트 sen tonki zoktia loyete here mari laroare tonki zok tonki 맥ter salon tamatri 맥디 shapa bakari ya tartina 맥라로are tonki zola tonki 맥야 요에 딱제다 샵 셔시트 같은 거 선거요래 셔트 다들이 타모마타리 팽기요래 들이 타톡들 내가 가야지 시랍도 파르다 사바디 시랍들아 네 무보단 침이 출린데죠 다기님이 봤던나 대하고 타고요래 데르들이 시랍이 파르서 내록도는 다기님이 하고래 제때로 랑당 다기님이 하고 고토그는 말이 내가 시랍 좀 정도 야되는 것도 로나 들이 팽거요래 지라고 타도가 남이도 보시라고 그래. 지라고면 남이도 보시라. 나마도 변 지마도 바고 그래.
Aside from realizing the abiding nature, there is no other perfection of wisdom. Regarding the perfection of wisdom, there are large volumes of scriptures according to the Prajnaparamita vehicle. And so to explain it in briefly, really, what is the perfection of wisdom? It is ultimately that one realizes the non-dual nature of self and other. One realizes emptiness. Actually, an understanding of that arises also when you're reading the Heart Sutra, for example. In the Heart Sutra, it goes through each and every body part, for example. So it says there is no form. So you analyze your form, for example, according to the scriptures on logical reasoning, like on valid cognition and so on. So there's a lot of instructions on that. So but basically you're examining your form, your body, the outer part of your body, your skin, and then the inner part of your body. And finally you find nothing, just a heap of many different parts. So then you decide that there is no form. And then you look at the inner mind, the consciousness, that perceives through the sense doors. So then it says in the Heart Sutra there is no eyes, no ears, and so on. So first you cannot find the body. Then you look at the sense powers, and you cannot find that. The more you try to find it, the more you get lost. You cannot find it. So such analysis in depth actually is very beneficial for beginning practitioners. But then on the ultimate level, when one really perfects this paramita of wisdom, the perfection of wisdom transcends all characteristics. It transcends all substantial true existence. So one realizes the inseparable nature of self and other, basically. So that is the ultimate perfection of wisdom, but it's something that we cannot instantly realize. But it's actually very beneficial to read the Heart Sutra often to really deepen your understanding. So the ultimate perfection of wisdom is also referred to as the wisdom that realizes that there is no self. When you realize that, then nothing else is to be accomplished.
야, 내가 제거래, 로종 제거래, 저쪽이네. 가라사 하면서 제거래, 첨성 거래지. 그런 가르쳐요. 그런 임세미 봐. 저봐도는 저도 소름 돋고 마셔 오래지. 야, 수직 딱 대동 저거 말이야. 오, 딜 남았자 아침을 공치다가 대봐요 왜? 설마? 공치다가 대봐요 왜? 대봐요면 소발 샀다 남의 말이다. 콩주는 처음부터 가래 쌍마다 나네 말이 서쪽을 내려야 말이 엠석이야 로하나시 자기 그래 야 로니 셔들 그 사자인 거래. 가라치 바사래. 무슨 오만 비밀도 가니 레지다리 이제 스테이 그만한 동도 없대. 맞지를 따라. 그만한 동도. 포카점들 가점들 들이 많은 가니 동거 가지고 팔라라. 팔을. 그거 니 그저 자가도 그만은 아니 누구 여사래지. 몇 동네가. 대마대 좀 받을 코로나를 야랑 코파 따중아 세워지 그 미나 쉐어머드 니고 줘야 돼 많은 도구 요머드 미마션데 그저 자지요 들레지 판초가자 중하다다 세워지 삐때로 많은 그저 많은 도구 줘요 말아서 그 보면 세게 고소 라마 되게 들로 때다를 치겨라 특히 손dem 밤 ter적 손을 당부스 총콜 당으로지 나는 야, 미지가 돼, 야실. 무슨 대로 제가도 야떡 그랬어. 야떡나. 지만 몇지 월 말홍선 몇대 탑쪽지. 추야고 말이 되면이들이. 가래다. 우리 되면 누가가 이제 땅으로 그래. 대가리 싸먹다가 내로 또서 대나왔대. 점처럼 대를 한바 가요. 오. 다 되는 다 농소 살로 로들 까고 나사 직자 요 말이 조가로 로로 때 배대다면 내로 또 내가 대다고 용디 망생대로도 설카라 살고 쪽바치 영나 배나 대저버렸지.
So we have said, when you have realized the nature of mind, there is no greater learning than that. So have we realized the nature of mind? Some may have realized the nature of mind, but it's something that you cannot see that in anybody else. You have to see it within yourself, because the Buddha is only within. You cannot see the Buddha anywhere else. It is said that your mind itself, your mind itself is perfect as it is. There is nothing that needs to be removed and nothing that needs to be added to it, and that mind is the Buddha. So it is just the only difference is some have realized this and some have not. For example, when I was in prison, there were lots of people together, many lamas with great qualities, and among them also was my root guru, Khenpo Munsel. And he also stayed in prison for like 20 years, same like us. And first I just heard his name many times. So he was in the same circumstance in prison. But we, I for example, we had to, so not Khenpo Munsel, but the rest of us, we had to work really hard. And also we had to like study in winter. We hardly had any time even to eat. We had to follow all the rules of the prison. And in the meantime, what did Khenpo Munsel do? Actually, he didn't have to do anything. Day and night, he just went to use the toilet, and then when it was time to go for a meeting, even people would carry him there because he claimed to be crippled and he can't walk. So no one was able to actually figure his legs. No doctor was able to figure it out. And so you might wonder then, if he was treated in such a privileged way, is it because that the communist officials thought that he was a very special Lama and they had devotion to him? That was clearly not the case. They actually hated him in particular. But then why is it that nobody could see his fault? Why is it that no one can actually figure out why he couldn't walk, for example? He claimed to be sick, he claimed to be crippled, and the doctors were completely blind to that, and they just took it, believed it. So for the entire 20 years, actually, he didn't even have to broom the floor even once. He was just in his room eating and doing his practice. And actually, doing practice at that time was completely forbidden. So you couldn't recite the Mani mantra. Even if you try to close your mouth and recite the mantra really silently, now often they would even check if your throat is moving, and if your throat's moving, they would claim that you are reciting the Mani mantra, which is not loud, and then they would beat you down. And so even when somebody, it's almost like when somebody had died, they would still check the throat if they could do the last recitations or not, if their throat would be moving. So that was absolutely not allowed to recite anything. So it seemed to be completely impossible to do any recitations of any kind. And so Khenpo Munsel, on the other hand, was well known for on like the waxing and waning Guru Rinpoche days to recite the 7-line prayer and to do like 100,000 accumulations of that on top of it. He did not get into trouble at all. And then later, when somebody once saw him reciting, he would just kind of act like crazy, and would just like scream at them, "You're so terrible," and he would like jump around, and then they would just think he's like crazy, and then they just let him be again. So nothing ever helped. So actually, when you've realized the nature of the mind, then what greater miracle than that is it that you could display? And so then at the end of the prison term, after 20 years, remember he was crippled and he couldn't walk, at the end of the prison term, he just stood up and walked out of prison. And so now in this world, we still have these kind of like beings who possess those qualities of like a Buddha. For example, like His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Even the Buddha himself actually couldn't turn the wheel of Dharma the way His Holiness is doing it. Or Holiness Jetsun Rinpoche, when he escaped from Tibet over Nepal to India, normally everybody else would need like animals and food and so forth for the journey, but he just basically left without anything, and he just arrived in India. So that's actually also an incredible quality that I've not heard about most other people. And then later, once when I came to Dharamsala, there was at that time Druvang Rinpoche stayed there at the Nechung, like oracle's kind of home, this place, and I came there to meet His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and so heard that there is this Jigung Kagyu Lama staying in this Nechung home, and the Tibetan government prepared made him stay there. And they told me there's this teacher there, and he's a really like a practitioner. So when I met him, I really felt he's like the Buddha himself, like actually, like Jetsun Rinpoche, for example, that he's really like the Buddha. For example, he would just stay there, meditate, and not eat for the entire week, and so forth. So many people actually were speaking about like those qualities and special like signs of accomplishment that he displayed. Even if like others did not really express his qualities. But then Holiness Dalai Lama, for example, also wrote a long life prayer for him, seeing his qualities. So nowadays in this world, there really are so many emanations of Buddhas, even though we cannot always see them, but they really have all the qualities of someone who has realized the nature of their mind. So it's not just within the mind, actually. We can also often really see on the outer level some signs of accomplishment.
the top she was carried. Tanatang so late tambo body can't be nobody who took the top, top, you know, she go. So simply touchy made all sound of middle watch Julius and Sajik shelving to you about the members that they remember top race. Top, you know, the legs all over. Top, she was the total over. The top, the family, you feel on go. The top, the carry, Dadi, the Shabatari. Simply sound my dear, the Dadi, Junglet, Pardon Chagrom, the Chagro, the carry, Chartami, not to some of Junglet, Dadi, not to some of Rores. The Shoguna, the two words, but top, the top music also. Top music, Chibojina, T-Shapon, what you don't talk, Tapsi song related, saving the matter Davari, Bella. The Largon and the Lion one. The top wasn't done, not the Yimping Lunga, Yiso Savatam Chite, Yimping Lord Killer, the around people, they were saying to yours. The top, tell us, told your part of the types of our mess. Kong say, top carry. Tarpon, Rodo, Kovac, Danga, Kong use. Mana, Satic, Danga, Kong use. Zapon, Tonghort, Danga, Kong use. But in the Danga territory, to the little daughter, that may be, not that may be, simply, you know, Jimping Lordy, Bena, give out of Magia Kakayoma. San Joseph with Jay of the Magia to give out your young. They got them now got some bishop song, Malaya, to buy me become the guy to watch him now. It's no carried. Seventy parades be Daddy, you will get separate. There's some three that say, told the parallel touches along me. So.
So then here we are speaking about the 10 paramitas. So when one has realized the nature of mind, attained the state of Buddhahood, then there are 4 more paramitas. There is the paramita of skillful means, of power, of aspiration, and primordial wisdom. So first, skillful means. It says, aside from all activity becoming the accumulations, there is no other perfection of skillful means. So skillful means starts right in the beginning of our path when we take the refuge vow. We are given a method, a skillful means. When the teacher says, Tab Yenom, which means this is the method. This is the method, taking refuge is the method for the seed of sentient beings, which is the precious human body, to grow into a flower, the qualities of a Buddha. And then we accept this method with the response lexo or excellent. So this is meant here with skillful means. So the actual skillful means is the altruistic mind. With that skillful means, self-grasping diminishes. The reason why sentient beings are not enlightened is because of self-grasping. It is like the reason why water is ice is because the weather is cold. So self-grasping is like the cold weather. In order to melt it, you need warmth. So this skillful means here is the warmth of great compassion. Another example of this perfection of wisdom, on top of which there is skillful means, is some method and wisdom, is the sun and the moon. For example, when we visualize a deity. So the skillful means is altruism. And if you have altruism, whatever you do with body, speech, and mind becomes your own benefit and the happiness of others. And then, as Milarepa says here, then everything you do becomes an accumulation of merit, becomes virtue. Milarepa elsewhere also said that he has the instruction for walking around becoming circumambulation, for sleeping to become luminosity, and for eating and drinking to become a Gana chakra feast offering. When you realize the nature of mind, then there is no more self. Then there is perfect altruism. And so when everything arises from bodhichitta, there is actually no more division really between virtue and non-virtue. Then all non-virtue has transformed into virtue. Yesterday we mentioned this point about the prohibitions and permissions. So on the lower vehicle there are more prohibitions, and on the higher vehicle there are more permissions. And the difference lies within the mind, whether or not the mind, there still is self-clinging in the mind or not.
Milarepa 동태 또 오거나 그리고 다 가리 걸 잡동 총코트 집었다마디나 당부 출유마다 박차 조로 다 제로 대무시네 대니 뭘 가르쳐도 그래서 당나 세체 이동은 되나 어느 주 가라 사요 대안 동로 해 나오나 가라 사요는 뭐지게 랑그스고 집대시 지체다 다 저거지네 칼라사나 다다도 그랬지 어느 잡동 총코트 말아비 가리요 그래 랑리사 있지 플라사 저거 담지 딱 붙인 코트 줄을 참고요래 야 이 납시 토지 선바지 납시 이제 선바지 대노지 저쪽 담바르자 서로 상그때 강리들 산촉스 줄을 제철 상황을 주미 퍼왔다 딱한 뮤지 선바 탐지들이 사람이 연구요래 다디 요버가들이 베나다 자rum도 차들이 마다베 뉴모만 저들이 뉴모만 미리 실리죠라 될 살아 저용요래 다디 요버가들이 달제데 살아제니들 제들 뉴모만 될들이 레기 바사 티 서로 동거리 너한테 매번 탈때들이 상속세를 못 줄라올라 들 상황 주미다 버려지 되고서 게두마 탐제는 초바퍼나 게두바 탐제들이 처리 받다가 파 초바퍼는 때 강에 게두바 저러 가 초바퍼는들이 라랑게 전투주제 남인주제 때라서 말았더니 내가 토리장 자주 사지고 못하고 순남그 생초도 저 받들이 바보겐들이 제대로 그 유를 상속 세우나 Three day class had a Hindu charge your three billion Zabakana, Tata Javatamchi, Chiban Kong, Zabaran, Zabak to Diamond, Kong Rug Deva to the Deva, Nancy Pamila, Kalikase Yori, the Septi Tonata, Hindu, Radu, Potam, Hindu, Honari, Teta Chanutri, said the Kari Chen and Rodu Gulam Tamchetri, Sulam with Jallinger, Sulam just. 다 긴지가 로터 잘라들 세세 탐지 language 줄 세세 초조 발나서 저런 남녀가리랑 사마진동 권하들 language 성거래 대 고도 사축 성용이 고도 사축 성대 그들이 당지세로 요래 됐다 맞아 저는 메타시 바나니 빼나 메소고지 받은 통나 갈사고도 오 늘 메토지 와도 내가 고거 성거래 대상권들 대마삼 오 디메토드 타보자 살퍼스 사주부지 야만나 말까지 설치 바차죠 버티 타고들 지시 봐요 거네 소나무 저 레터 보건 것이 대타 사고는 타톡 되는 애들이 무슨 다들 세는 남에 바차들이 말하리 반응이 차요고래 대로 소소랑 오 랑그 셈나 다라도 보자면 신기 코나 남는 집에 봐 파밀리들 들이 세세 초슬랑 초를 도요래 말하리 반응이 도요래
So it is this union of method, skillful means, and wisdom that Milarepa had realized. And so we have said Milarepa said that he has this instruction where eating and drinking becomes a feast offering. So first we need to recognize the afflictive emotions, how we form habitual imprints, how we engage in grasping, fixation in our mind. And then once we recognize that, we need to find a skillful means, like an antidote. So how does everything that you do become an accumulation of merit? For example, you do need to eat food, which is sort of an activity you do for yourself, for your own body. But then there's a difference in the intention. Now, if you're eating the food just for yourself, for your own body, then it is completely empty, actually. But Milarepa says that eating and drinking can also become a Gana Chakra feast offering. What he means is that when you're eating and drinking, you are visualizing your body as the entire mandala of the deity. The mandala, the deities of the mandala are all complete within one's illusory body. For example, the 8 consciousnesses are the 8 bodhisattvas, and the 8 sense objects, the 8 female bodhisattvas, and basically the 100 Buddha families. The 100 Buddhas are all complete within one's body. So if you recognize that and you're able to cultivate bodhichitta, your body becomes like a temple where you turn on the light and you see all of these mandala deities. And then all of these ordinary bacteria and life forms in the body, they all become the deity. They all are seen as the deity. So from an impure perspective, because of self-grasping, we are in this frozen state. We are afflicted. But when these afflictions transform into primordial wisdom, all the beings in our body transform into the deity. And so we make sometimes a division between gods and demons. But what we call a demon is nothing else but an afflicted mind. And if one acts out with an afflicted mind, then one is temporarily thrown into the 3 lower realms and one becomes this demon. And so when we give rise to bodhicitta and mature in this way, our body becomes like this temple where we turn on the light and we can see the mandala of deities. For example, also we are making offerings to the Sangha. Why is it that we are making these offerings to the Sangha? Why do they receive our offerings? It is all the result from causes they have created in the past. as a result of having created certain causes, one temporarily achieves birth in the higher realms and ultimately enlightenment. So it is said that the Sangha community is the perfect field for accumulating merit, for example. And that is because in their mind there is always bodhicitta. And if there is bodhicitta, then even if you're just eating food, it becomes for the benefit of others. For example, the activities of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, he is working so hard day and night, traveling around the world, and he's doing that really only for the benefit of sentient beings. There is not even the slightest thought of self-concern in his mind. He's not doing that for himself. Whatever he does, wherever he goes, all his activities are for the benefit of others. And therefore, everything he does becomes an accumulation of merit. There is no selfish attitude. So when there is no selfish attitude, then whatever you do becomes an accumulation of merit. All your activities become the benefit of others. So that is what we call the quality of relative bodhicitta. And through relative bodhicitta, self-grasping diminishes. For example, a flower. When you look at a beautiful flower, you think, this is a beautiful flower, I want it. So don't think in this way. First offer the flower to the deity. If you offer it all up without wanting the flower, then you are not forming a habitual imprint in your mind. So for that you need to possess mindfulness. So for a beginning practitioner, this is how we can accumulate merit. And ultimately, by doing that, we free ourselves from this concept of a self, and we become just like Milarepa, who only thinks about others day and night, all the time. And in that way, everything he does becomes an accumulation of merit.
Så det så någon tålig du ju det kan ju nå. Das simply not. Simply GP låter som madara det är inte sant ju gör det. Tab det blir man går gör det inte. Då det kan ju. Och GP låter madara och då sa jag så vi går någon sammanhang och gör det. 다 대성들이 탑시사가지더니 산속체미 종아리 속된 거 부르는 것을 안 거야 요래지.
So if you feel that I also want that everything I do becomes an accumulation of merit, so how can I do that? Actually, if you just do never separate from the altruistic wish to benefit others, then that is the skillful means. Then everything you do naturally becomes an accumulation of merit. So even though there generally are many skillful means, it all comes down to one single essence, and that is to never separate from the altruistic mind. And then all your activities become the activities of relative bodhicitta. So this is how we should understand the nature of skillful means. It's really a quality of bodhicitta. Also, if you have any questions that you would like to discuss, also Jetsun Rinpoche is here. You can ask him too.
Oi mani be me ho, oi mani be me ho, oi mani be me ho. Punto.